Many people say that when people die, everything ends. But what if someone doesn't die, but stands by your side? What if the same shadow comes to your bed every night at 3 a.m. and only sees you? This story began with a simple nightmare, but it ended with the revelation of a truth that convinced the whole family. Some shadows never leave people. They just wait. The incident happened to a friend of mine. His name is Ritam. Ritam is a very realistic boy. He never believed in ghosts, jinn, miracles. On the contrary, if someone talked about them, he would just laugh them off. But towards the end of 2024, something started happening in his life that could not be explained by any logic. It all started with a strange dream. Ritam saw that he was walking along a long, empty road. Fog all around. A man was standing at the end of the road. The man's face was not visible. All that was understood was that he was looking at Ritam. The more Ritam moved forward, the man also moved forward more slowly, just when the two were a few feet apart. Ritam woke up and sat up. He thought that this was an ordinary nightmare. But the next night too, the same dream. The next night too, the same scene. Just one difference. Every day the stranger came a little closer than the previous night. A week later, Ritam couldn't sleep properly anymore. When night came, he felt that dream would come again today. Finally, one night, the dream changed. He opened his eyes and saw he was lying on his bed. The door to the room was closed. The window was also closed. But right next to the bed, someone was standing. Tall, completely black. The face couldn't be seen. Ritam wanted to move, but his body wasn't moving. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out of his throat. About a minute later, the shadow slowly disappeared into the darkness of the room. And then, Ritam's body started moving again. The next morning, he didn't tell anyone about the incident, because he thought to himself, maybe it was sleep paralysis, but what happened next was not normal at all. The next day, even after going to the office, Ritam couldn't get the night's incident out of his mind. He kept telling himself over and over, it's just sleep paralysis. Many people get it. There's nothing to be afraid of. But that night, his faith was shattered. It was exactly 3:03 a.m. He suddenly woke up, not with a sound, not even with a nightmare. It felt like someone was staring at him. As he slowly opened his eyes, the inside of his chest seemed to stop. The door to the room was closed. The window was also closed. Yet, in the very corner of the room, the same black figure was standing. This time, he was much more visible than before. Tall, unusually thin. Both arms were hanging by his sides. But the most terrifying thing was his eyes. The face wasn't visible, but even in the darkness, the eyes were shining like two pale white dots. As Ritam sat up, the shadow slowly tilted its head, as if it was smiling. After a few seconds, the light in the room came on by itself once and went out again. When the light came back on, the shadow was gone. The room was completely empty. That night, he couldn't sleep again. Over the next few days, strange things started to happen. When he stood in front of the mirror in the bathroom, he could see someone's shadow behind him. When he looked back, no one was there. When he opened the camera on his mobile phone, sometimes he could see a black figure standing in one corner of the frame. But when he took a picture, there was nothing in the picture. One day, it was night when he returned from the office. He was alone in the elevator. The numbers on the digital display were changing. 6, 5, 4. Just then, the elevator suddenly stopped, not on any floor, between 2 floors. The light blinked 2 or 3 times. Then, in the elevator mirror, Ritam saw another person standing next to his reflection. He was alone. Yet, 2 people in the mirror. Ritam turned around. There was no one behind him. When he looked at the mirror again, the other figure was also invisible. At that very moment, the elevator started moving again. That night, he told his closest friend Manojit about all the events that had happened. Manojit initially laughed it off. "You've been watching a lot of horror videos. Use your mobile less for a few days." Ritam didn't argue anymore. But a few minutes after hanging up, Manojit called again. This time his voice had changed. He asked, "Did you tell me everything truthfully?" Ritam was surprised. "You mean?" Manojit was silent for a few seconds, and then, "When you were telling the events on the phone, I saw someone standing behind you." Ritam's chest trembled. He said, "What were you saying?" Manojit slowly said, "I thought it was someone from the house." But before hanging up, he slowly brought his face close to your ear, and then he was laughing. Ritam couldn't talk on the phone for another moment. His hands were shaking. He slowly looked around the room. No one. Yet, it seemed, he was not alone in the house. That night, for the first time, he clearly heard someone whispering his name very softly. Ritam. Once. Twice. Then, right next to his ear. "I'm still here." Ritam opened the door in fear and ran outside. But as soon as he reached the stairs, he froze. Because in the darkness of the ground floor, the same black figure was standing. This time, he was no longer far away. Just a few steps down, and slowly. 1 step. 2 steps. 3 steps. He started climbing up the stairs. Ritam couldn't move a single step. The black figure standing at the bottom of the stairs was slowly climbing up. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. But surprisingly, there was no sound of his footsteps. He could only feel that he was coming closer. Ritam suddenly turned and entered his flat and closed the door. He stood panting, his back against the door. There was no sound outside. No knocking. Nothing. After about 5 minutes, he dared to look out through the crack in the door. The corridor was completely empty, as if nothing had happened. The next morning, he went to Manojit's house. He told the whole story again from beginning to end. This time, Manojit did not smile. Instead, he sat silently for a long time. Then he slowly took out an old wooden box. Inside the box were a few old photos. In one photo, 4 college friends. One of them looked exactly like the tall shadow figure. Ritam looked at the picture and said, "Who is this?" Manojit answered very slowly. "His name was Arnab, our closest friend." Ritam asked in surprise, "Where is he now?" Manojit lowered his head. 5 years ago, he died. The air in the room suddenly became heavy. Manojit began to say, "One rainy night, 4 friends went out for a ride in a car. On the way back, an accident occurred on a mountain road. Although everyone survived, Arnab did not survive. But before dying, he kept saying one thing over and over again. 'Don't leave me alone.' Manojit still couldn't forget that." Ritam stared at the picture for a while. Then suddenly his eyes were caught on a corner of the picture. Behind the 4 people, far away, a blurry black figure was standing. He showed the picture to Manojit. "Who is this?" Manojit looked at the picture and said in surprise, it wasn't there before. His hands started shaking. He had had the picture for many years, but such a shadow, he had never seen it. That night, the 2 decided, to the place where the accident had happened. Maybe the answer to all the mysteries was hidden there. Around 9 o'clock at night, they reached the mountain road. Thick fog all around. The sound of the forest in the distance. A part of the broken railing was still lying on one side of the road. Manojit said very softly, "Right here." Arnab held my hand for the last time. Just then, suddenly a cold wind started blowing. Ritam felt someone was standing right behind them. Slowly, both of them turned around. The same black figure. This time, not far away, just a few hands in front. But, for the first time today, his face was visible. And seeing that face, Manojit's body went numb. He whispered, "Arnab!" The figure stood silently for a few seconds. Then he said very softly, "I didn't come to pick you up. I just wanted you guys come back. Once. For the last time." Manojit's eyes started to water. He said in a trembling voice, "I didn't want to leave you and run away. I thought you'll come out too." The figure standing in the darkness slowly nodded. Then, a calm smile appeared on his face for the first time. The air around him suddenly became normal. The fog slowly started to clear, and within a few seconds, the shadow figure disappeared into the air. They returned home, thinking that everything was over. After that, for 3 weeks, Ritam didn't have any more nightmares. He didn't wake up at 3 in the morning. There wasn't even a shadow in the corner of the room. He started to believe. Finally, it was all over. But a month later, one day, Manojit suddenly called Ritam. His voice was shaking. He just said, "Look at the old picture again." Ritam took out the picture. The 4 friends are still in the picture. But that black shadow standing in the back is no longer there. Instead, right in front of the picture, in the middle of the 4 friends, there is another person standing. The face is blurry, but one thing is clear. He is looking at the camera, smiling. And in the lower right corner of the picture, where there was nothing before, there are only 3 words that have slowly emerged. "See you again." Some events in human life can never be fully explained. Maybe they are illusions of our minds. Maybe they are something that we do not yet know the explanation for. But if in the silence of a night you also feel someone is watching you, then before you look back, maybe you should think again. Do you believe that a person can come back to warn his loved ones one last time after death? In this incident, everyone in a family thought that the death of the elder aunt was natural. But exactly 3 nights after her death, a figure wearing a white sari started standing at the old second-floor window of the house at the same time every day. At first, everyone thought it was a mistake, but on the 4th night, the figure said something, which came true exactly the next day. From that day on, no one in the family looked at that window after midnight. Our village house is about 100 years old. A 2-story house made of red bricks, surrounded by huge mango, jackfruit, and shirish trees. Although the place seemed very peaceful during the day, the atmosphere of the house seemed to change completely when night fell. Since childhood, the elders used to say, "Don't open the north-facing window of the 2nd floor after midnight." No one would tell us the reason. We wouldn't ask either. Over time, everyone forgot that prohibition. Just then, the eldest person in our family, grandmother, fell ill. She was everyone's hope, everyone's companion in joy and sorrow. After being ill for several months, she breathed her last one rainy night. The entire family was devastated. The funeral, relatives, mourning. No one could understand how the few days passed. But strange things started happening on the 3rd night of her death. It was exactly 12:15 at night. My younger cousin was studying. Suddenly, he felt someone standing outside the window. At first, he didn't pay attention. But after a while, the same feeling again. As he slowly opened the curtain and looked outside, the book fell from his hand to the floor. In front of the old window, on the north side of the 2nd floor, an old woman was standing. a white sari, a veil on her head. Glancing inside the house at first, the brother thought that a relative might be standing in the yard. But the next moment he remembered. There was no balcony outside that window on the second floor. No one was supposed to be standing. He screamed in fear. Everyone came running. But by then, there was no one outside. Father said, "You saw wrong because of fear." The incident could have ended there. But the next night too, at the exact same time, in the same window, the same figure appeared again. This time, not just one person. 3 people in a row saw the scene. And then, the oldest aunt in the family slowly said, "I knew. He'll come again." The whole house fell silent at Aunt's words. Dad asked in surprise, "You knew? What do you mean?" Aunt was silent for a few moments. Then he said very slowly, "Your great-aunt was the kind of person who could sense danger in her family in advance." This isn't the first time. He began to tell about an incident that happened many years ago. At that time, Aunt was studying in college. One day, Aunt suddenly said, "I won't cross the river today." When someone asked why, he simply said, "I don't feel well." He didn't listen to his aunt. That was the day the boat capsized. He barely survived. Even then, his aunt gave strange warnings of danger several more times. But someone comes back after death. No one ever thought of such a thing. The third night, the whole family stayed awake on purpose. At midnight, all the lights in the house were turned off. Only a small lamp was burning in front of the north-facing window. 12 to 10, 12 to 12, 12 to 15. Suddenly, all the leaves on the mango tree outside started shaking together. Strangely enough, there was no wind that day. Then, a figure slowly became clear outside the window. A white sari, a veil on her head. Her hands were folded in front of her. Her face was not clearly visible. But the way she stood, it was completely like an old woman. No one in the room was saying a word. Suddenly, the figure slowly raised her right hand. But she did not gesture to come in. Rather, she pointed her finger at the old well in the yard. Then, a very faint voice was heard. There. The sound was so soft that everyone could not hear it. But her father and aunt heard it clearly. The same sound again. There. The next moment, the figure disappeared. The next morning, everyone went to the well. The well had not been used for many years. It was overgrown with bushes. Aunt said, "Let's clean it up." 2 or 3 people started cutting weeds together. Suddenly, one of them shouted. The ground on one side of the well had collapsed, and under that broken part, we saw an old wooden box. The box was lifted up with great difficulty. Everyone thought maybe it was something old. But when they opened the box, some old documents were found inside. Land papers, and a letter written by the elder aunt. Everyone's body trembled upon reading the first line of the letter. "If this letter reaches you, then you will know that I am no longer alive." The letter read, a few years ago, a distant relative of the family had made a fake land paper. The elder aunt knew about it, but there was no proof, so he hid the original papers next to this well, and he wrote, "If I die suddenly, take these papers out. Otherwise, our ancestral home will no longer be ours one day." Everyone was speechless after reading the letter, because no one knew the elder aunt was carrying such a big truth alone. Just then, a motorcycle stopped in front of the gate of the house. 2 strangers got out. They had some papers in their hands. They came and said, "The legal process to take possession of this land will begin today." Father smiled calmly. Then, he placed the original documents found in the well in front of them. The color of both of their faces changed instantly. They left without saying a word. That's when everyone understood. For the past 3 nights, Big Auntie had not come to scare anyone. She had come to save her family for the last time. There was such silence in the house, as if everyone had forgotten to breathe together. Father was reading the letter written by Big Auntie over and over again. As he read each line, one thing became clear. She understood before her death that one day someone would try to take possession of this house and land. But she didn't tell anyone, because she knew that no one would believe her. That evening, the whole family sat in front of Big Auntie's picture and prayed for the first time. No one was afraid anymore. Rather, everyone felt she was still keeping this house as it was before. But the night was still there. It was exactly 12:15 at night. No one was sleeping. Everyone was deliberately sitting in front of that old window facing north. When the clock struck 12:15, suddenly the air in the room became cold. The flame of the lamp trembled once. Then, slowly, on the other side of the window, the familiar figure wearing a white sari appeared again. This time, she wasn't standing still like before. She slowly raised her head. For the first time, her face was clear. Yes, she really was the eldest sister. That familiar, charming smile on her face. The smile that had made everyone feel safe as children. No one standing inside the room could hold back their tears. The father said in a trembling voice, "Sister, have you really come?" The figure didn't say anything. It just nodded very slowly. Then, he slowly raised his right hand, but this time not towards the well. He looked at everyone inside the house once. Then, he raised his hand in a gesture of blessing. At that very moment, a gentle breeze started blowing outside. The dry leaves of the mango tree moved together, and the courtyard of the house floated. The faint smell of the sivuli flowers. The strange thing was, it wasn't the season for sivuli to bloom at that time. A few seconds later, the figure of the elder aunt slowly began to blur. It seemed that she was disappearing into the light. Just before they disappeared, a very faint voice came out. "Be well." Just 2 words. But upon hearing those 2 words, everyone in the house burst into tears. The next morning, the father decided that the north-facing window of the house would never be closed again. He said, "This window is not an evil place. Our relatives came through here to protect us for the last time." From that day on, the atmosphere of the house changed. The uncomfortable silence of the night was gone. Not a single unnecessary sound was heard. Everyone in the family believed. The elder aunt had finished her unfinished task and passed away peacefully. After about a year, the renovation work on the old part of the house began. The roof timbers were being replaced. While working, a worker suddenly called out, "Come this way!" Everyone ran. A small bundle wrapped in cloth was hidden inside an old wooden beam of the roof. When it was opened, it was revealed. An old black and white photo inside. The whole family in the photo. The elder aunt standing in the middle, his own handwriting on the back of the picture. When the family is together, no darkness can win. That picture is still hanging in the living room of the house. Everyone in the family says, since then, the figure in the white sari has never been seen in that window. Because the man who came back, he didn't come to scare anyone. He came to protect his family one last time. We often think that death means the end of all relationships. But maybe love, responsibility, and sacrifice, these have no end. Maybe even after some people leave, until their last promise is fulfilled, they stay by our side silently. And if one late night you also feel someone is blessing you from afar, then don't be afraid. Maybe he's not an unknown shadow. Maybe he's someone who still loves you as much as he did before.